So we started our discussion on Enterprise Interface Builder, or EIB. So what is an EIB? An EIB is a simple, easy-to-use interface that we use to create secure integrations with WorkDay. What is an integration? An integration is the way we exchange information between software applications. That is what we started our discussion with. And then the EIB provides an easy-to-use graphical and guided interface to define outbound and inbound integrations. So when we say outbound, what is an outbound integration? Outbound from what? So there are three components to an EIB design pattern. We know about that. What are they? They are getting the data right. That is a data source. Then you transform the data if necessary. The transformation step is optional. And you deliver the data to an external system right. So these are the three steps. Get data, transform data, deliver data. So, when we are going to use an EIB, when should you consider using an EIB? Now you know, EIB is the right tool for you if you can answer yes to all of these questions. So remember, all of these questions have to be yes. Can one custom report or web service call handle all the related data? Can you put all the data in one custom report, right? Can you create that custom report that gets all the data for you? If yes, then of course EIB is possible. Right, you may use EIB for that. If you have to get the data from multiple reports, 2 or 3 sources of data, we cannot use an EIB, okay? So remember, it has to be one data source. If all the data is in one report, then only we would be able to use an EIB. Then can one transformation manage all the data right? Can you design a way that in one transformation step all the data is handled right? You are able to transform everything in one single step. If that is possible, yes, you can use an EIB. Does the integration need only one input or output? If you are going to send it to one single place, yes. If that is the situation, you can use an EIB. So it is one input, one transformation, one output. If that is the case, yes, EIB is the right tool for you. So what can we call it? One input, one transformation step, one output right. If that is the situation, we can definitely use an EIB. Sometimes what happens? We need to be able to send the data to multiple different systems, multiple different applications. In that case, EIB is not the best approach, okay? Again, if you want to use multiple transformation steps, you want to transform it to one format and then, from that format you transform it to something else. In that situation also, EIB is not the right product right, the right tool to use. And if you are getting the data from multiple sources, then definitely EIB cannot be used, right? But even with these many limitations per se, like if you think of these as limitations, you might be wondering that who uses EIB, right? Or is it used at all? Well, let me tell you, EIBs are the most commonly used integration tools in the WorkDay ecosystem, right? Around 70%. 75% of all integrations built ever are EIBs, okay? And they are very common, very easy to use, very powerful, and very simple. That's why the simplicity is the power with which it becomes so popular, okay? So let's quickly create an EIB, then right, let's see what it is all about. So we will create an EIB, but first we will start by talking about what we call as an outbound EIB. The outbound EIBs are used to extract the information from WorkDay, and you can either attach it back to WorkDay as an attachment so that we can take it out as an attachment file, or you can send it somewhere for further processing, right? You can send it to an external system for further processing. Now we will talk about the source of data. Where are we going to get the data from? The data source. There are two types of sources of data for an EIB. Number one is a custom report. Remember, we have talked about custom reports. So you can use that custom report as a source of data. This is the most common. This is the most common approach that we will use. Custom report, okay. But can we use any custom report as our data source? The answer is no, right? The thing is, it has to be web service enabled. The custom report has to be web service enabled before you are able to use it as a source of data. The underlying technology for this integration in WorkDay is web services, and that is based on XML, okay, XML web services. That is what is the underlying technology. So if we are going to use a custom report, we have to first enable it as a web service. Remember, where did we do it? In the Advanced tab, right, you have an option Enable as a web service. We will see that option again. So in the custom report, we have to go to Advanced tab, and there we have to enable it as a web service. Now, can all reports be enabled as a web service? The answer is no. All kinds of custom reports will not be enabled as a web service. Advanced reports and search reports are the only two kinds of reports that can be enabled as a web service. Right. So only these two types of reports can be enabled as web services. So that means only these reports can be used as a source of data in a EIB, right? Right. Another type of source of data is the WorkDay Web Services. Or we also call it WWS, right? WorkDay Web Services. There is a whole bunch of WorkDay web services that are used to integrate with WorkDay, to exchange information with WorkDay. So they are grouped into different web services, right? There are, I think, around 30-odd different web services that are used to do different kinds of functions. Web services are primarily of two types. Primarily, one is for put, the other one is for get. These are the two main types. Some other types are also there, like submit and import. Okay. So these are some other types as well. But can you tell me from the name? Can you tell me from the name, right, like, what is the put web service all about? Uploading or loading data into WorkDay, right? Into WorkDay. So inbound or outbound? The direction of EIB that we've outbound, right? So for outbound integrations we are going to use the GET operations. For inbound, we are mostly going to use the PUT operations. Okay. So now, how do we know which operations to use? For that, there is a task called Web Services. WorkDay Web Services, right? And if you look at this, then this is a task. If you look at this task, it will give you a list of all the web services and its operations, right? So let's say, for human resources, that is a web service. Staffing is a web service. They're not directly related to the areas in security, but somewhat similar, I would say. Okay. So somewhat similar. So you can look at the human resources web services, you can look at those staffing web services, and they will give you some operations, right? But again, if you are going to be an integrations consultant, if you want to build a lot of integrations, then this makes sense. For a functional standpoint, you don't need to be worried too much about the WorkDay web services. We will be mostly dealing with the custom reports. Okay, when we are talking about outbound EIBs. But yes, for inbound EIBs, you would have to use the WorkDay Web Services operations because we will not be able to use a custom report to load data into WorkDay, right? Whenever you are going to load data into WorkDay, you have to use this public web services. Right. So this is about the data sources.